The Ink and Paint Club podcast is intended for mature audiences. I know we're usually talking about kids' cartoons and stuff, but there's going to be naughty language. Anyway, listener discretion is advised. Alright, you want to talk about some robots?
Let's transform, roll out, and fuck Galvatron right up his ass.
Do the Transformers have buttholes?
You're listening to the Ink and Paint Club podcast, a proud member of the Geekly Grind Podcast Network.
Hey, what's shaking, everybody? Welcome to the Ink and Paint Club podcast. My name is JD. Kyle has joined a resistance group on a faraway planet, so he is not here. But hey, Matt is here.
Podcasts are the right of all sentient beings.
It sure is.
Or something like that. I'm Optimus Matt.
Optimus Matt. Matamus Prime.
Matamus Prime.
My name does not loan itself to many puns, but
You're Bumble JD.
What?
Bumble JD.
We'll workshop this.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out. This week we are talking about Transformers: The War for Cybertron Trilogy, which has been steadily releasing on Netflix over the last year and a half or so.
Yeah, I guess the first season released in July 30th of 2020. The second season came out December of last year, and then the most recent and last season came out a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. So I thought this was an interesting project because it's licensed Hasbro, but it's made by Rooster Teeth.
Rooster Teeth is one of the production companies on it.
Right. It's just I felt it was very strange that was like, you know, who was involved with this.
Yeah, and you would never know, like, if nobody told you, because I think, as far as, like, any sort of production, like, type thing on this, like, I know Michael Jones voices, like, a bit character in here, the dude from Rage Quit, but, like, that's it as far as, like, any sort of, like, the voice actors go. Like, yeah, because it has no other. I would never be able to tell you that Rooster Teeth had any part in any of this aside from that.
So yeah, I mean, the series has been interesting because it, like, Transformers has. I mean, I am very much a casual Transformers fan. I started watching it back when Armada was on Cartoon Network because I would always watch it in the morning, and I watched through that whole trilogy of shows, which I think it's called the Cybertron, I think it's called the Cybertron Trilogy. I watched Prime, loved Prime. Prime is a great show. R.I.P. the Hub. And I watched a little bit of the show after that, Robots in Disguise. I watched like a season and a half of that. It was all right. But what really kind of brought me to this show is it kind of took itself a little more seriously than some incarnations. And the fact, which I really enjoyed, is the fact there are 0 humans in this entire show. And one of my main complaints with Transformers is that it is constantly bogged down by stupid human bullshit.
Are there humans present in all those other shows that you mentioned?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
All of them have stupid human, mostly children.
Right. So, I mean, you say you're like a casual Transformers fan, but like that's like a number of shows that you've checked out. So
okay, so when I say casual, I'm saying I have watched like 2 episodes of the original show, found it insufferably boring, and I've never seen Beast Wars.
So,
which comes into play in this show.
Right. Beast Wars is the only show that I recall watching as a kid. Like, of all the Transformers shows, I remember watching Beast Wars as a kid. I remember jack all about it. I just remember watching it. Aside from that, The only other Transformers content that I've consumed is the first 2 live-action movies.
Oh, that's right. I've seen most of the movies.
Yeah. So I've only seen those 2 movies, and I watched Beast Wars, but I didn't remember shit about it. And that's all that I know about fucking Transformers. That and this video, this old video called The Rude Awakening of Optimus Prime, which I haven't seen it in quite a long time, but I do remember, like, when I think of Transformers anything, I think of a line from the very end of that, which is Optimus Prime going, "Transform, roll out, and fuck Galvatron right up his ass." And because Galvatron is a character in this, it just made me think about it. It made me bust up.
Yeah. So, I mean, this show, like, really branches a couple different, what I would consider timelines. I mean, because for the most part, this show is either a retelling or an alternate take on the Generation 1 Transformers. This show starts on Cybertron, like, during the war, the titular war for Cybertron, where Megatron, the Decepticons, have pretty much taken over the planet, and Optimus Prime and the Autobots are, leading the resistance group. And they kind of come upon Bumblebee, who hasn't really taken a side yet, but through some circumstances, he is burdened with, like, the knowledge of all Cybertron in him because he's been chosen by some ancient robot wizard, basically.
He has been burdened by glorious purpose.
No, that's a different show.
That's a movie.
But yeah, so, like, this is divided into 3 chapters or seasons, or however Netflix wants to categorize this. So it's categorized into the first chapter, which is Siege, which is basically everyone on Cybertron, fighting the war. That season ends with everyone with the Autobots going out into space, which leads into Earthrise, which is dumb because it has nothing to do with Earth until literally the last 30 seconds of the last episode. And then we get the third season titled Kingdom, which sees both the Decepticons and the Autobots come out, like, because there's a whole thing we'll get into about like basically an alternate dimension they pop out of, which shoots them into the future where they crashed into Earth, and hey, all the characters from Beast Wars are there.
Yeah.
So fucking Optimus Primal and all this dinosaur bullshit.
So here's something that you neglected to mention about how the seasons are divvied up. The seasons are not underneath one giant Transformers War for Cybertron header. On Netflix, each season is its own individual listing on Netflix.
And I hate it.
And guess what?
What?
I watched the second season first on accident. I know.
They don't specify which one you should watch first.
They don't. And so here's what happened. I knew this ahead of time. I added them to my watch list in the order that I was sure was the right order, Siege, Earthrise, Kingdom. But when I went to go to my list, it must have done it out of order. So I ended up watching Earthrise first. And they were making all these references to stuff that happened. And I just assumed because, it's a show that's based around like G1 era Transformers, I was like, oh, this is all stuff that'll come up later, like in flashbacks or something. And that never happened. I get to the end of fucking season 2, and then Netflix plays me the ad for season 1, like, witness the origin of the Autobots and Decepticons. I was like, God damn it, I fucking got duped. So then I watched season 1. I was like, okay, here's all this shit that happened that they mentioned in the season I just watched. And then I watched season 3. I hate how Netflix does this. Because this is not the only thing of theirs that they do this with.
And I hate the way Netflix does this because these are technically named different, like each season is a different title, because it's like Transformers War for Cybertron: Siege is season 1. Because of that, it has to be classified under its own thing. The other example of this is because everyone knows that how I like Captain Underpants. The last season of it was titled Captain Underpants in Space. It is technically like season 4 or 5 of the show, but it is its own separate listing, as well as any of the holiday specials for any show are their own separate listings.
Netflix, there's a very easy way to do this. You put everything underneath one page, and then you divvy it up by order. If there's a whole season of a show that's gone by, you do that season. Underneath that, if there was a special that they aired before the next season, you list it there. Then you do the next season, and then you do it in that order. It just seems like such an easy fix. It's the way that they do this is so like obtuse. It's ridiculous.
I hate it. I hate it so much.
I know. It's insufferable. Because no other streaming service like has this problem.
No, not really.
Not that I can recall.
I mean, if Amazon and Hulu have these problems, I'm not aware of it.
Yeah.
This specific problem, I'm sure they have a myriad of their own problems, but...
Yeah, well, I mean, I could tell you for sure, yeah. At least HBO Max, I know, still has a problem where they've been around for, like a year now, or coming up on a year, and a lot of their stuff is still, like, out of order.
Yeah.
Like, for episodes for shows and stuff. Like, just way out of order.
Yeah.
So, not every streaming service is perfect, but I mean, I don't know. Netflix has been around longer than all of them, so I feel like they shouldn't. They should be held they should be held to some certain standard.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
It's for donk.
Or like at the very least, like to say, Transformers, Earthrise, season 2, a Transformers Kingdom season 3, or something like that. Like, I guess you could just go off of, like, the descriptions, but like I said, I went into that thinking that I'd done it in the right order, and because of the type of show that it was, I just assumed that it was, Well, it's half my, it's like half my fault, but the other half of the fault is Netflix's.
Well, something that I saw while watching Kingdom, which made it, like, even doubly confusing, is that each season... the episodes are called Chapter 1, Part whatever.
Yeah.
Every season is like that. So it's not like Earthrise is Chapter 2, Part 1, Part 2. No, every episode is Chapter 1, Part something. And I'm like, Netflix, what the shit?
I think it's entirely unnecessary to even have, like, these seasons have, like, subtitles. Like, for what purpose?
I mean, it's fine. It's fine that they have subtitles. It's just like notate that in under one banner. I don't understand. It leads to confusion. I mean, I was fine because I watched these as they came out, but like for you, Matt, who's watched these all last week, I can see how that would be confusing.
It was.
Like you have to have knowledge of like which one's first if
and especially because, like I said, my exposure to Transformers content is so very little. I just assumed that because the show was all G1 shit, that they kind of just assumed that you would know all the stuff that they were referencing, like in season 2, and that's why I just thought, oh, they'll touch on this stuff later, like in flashbacks or something, and then it never happened.
Well, so. The show it's got like all the G1 designs, some characters have like a little extra, maybe details now that they're in 3D. Like I especially like how everyone's got like, you can see the metal texture on everybody. Lots of scratches and broken pieces because obviously they're fighting a war. So, I mean, I really dig all of the designs, cause I do think the Gen 1 designs, I like their simplicity, but I like when they're brought to the modern age and given just like a slight more detail to make them a little more modern, but still recognizable to that old design.
Yeah, it's a more of a remaster than a reboot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and I'm used to seeing the post We're on Earth era of Transformers. So, I mean, I especially like the first season where it is literally just the war happening. Optimus Prime and all the Autobots are like dwindling in numbers. They are the resistance group. They are trying to stop Megatron from royally fucking up the planet. Even though the planet is basically royally fucked up from the beginning.
Yeah.
But, you know, and I like that they give the backstory for Megatron and Optimus Prime, where I feel like they almost have like a Professor X Magneto relationship, and whereas like they're friends, but they have so drastic differing ideologies that they have to become enemies, even though they really don't. Deep down, I don't think they want to be.
Yeah, I never thought about it that way before, but yeah, there is definitely some sort of like Magneto, Professor X familiarity there.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say like, exactly, just because it seems like X or Xavier and Magneto definitely have like a mutual respect for each other. It's just their methods for wanting to achieve kind of equal, or like, you know, for mutant kind to, you know, prevail or whatever. It's definitely different. Whereas here, Megatron just does go on to like full on like having to siphon all the energy from all the robots and shit to like get his point across or whatever. Like,
and like, well, and I feel like especially once we get into season 2, I do like that it does show a little bit of, for lack of a better word, humanity in Megatron, because basically Cybertron is running out of energon, which is, you know, the energy the Transformers run on to survive, and basically to after the end of the first season, where Optimus Prime throws the Allspark, which is like the ultimate source of energon, through a wormhole and then escapes the planet. Basically, Megatron's like, okay, well, we need to build this giant ship to go after them and, like, you know, get back the heart of the planet, which is the Allspark. And Soundwave, one of his underlings, is basically like, hey, we don't have the energon to do this, but we can do it this way, which ends up being like, hey, we're going to take all of the, like, low tier Transformers that are still on the planet who, like, you know, are subservient to Megatron willingly, like they believe in him. We're gonna just siphon off their life force to power this mega ship. And I do like that there is an instance where like Soundwave is like, hey, just shut this sector down because they're low in productivity, making weapons and shit. Just shut them down and we'll take care of it. And Megatron's like, okay, well, hold on a second. I'm gonna go check them out first, and like, do we really need to do this? Do we really need to shut them down? And he ultimately comes to the conclusion that they do, because they are so underperforming. But he has that little bit of humanity where he's like, you know, I don't want to hurt these people who are following me, but it's kind of that like greater good mentality that he has.
Yeah.
Obviously he kind of goes off the rails pretty much after that, but I do like there's a little bit, you do have some kind of understanding of where Megatron's coming from in some regards.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's not as like just I don't know, because I'm not that familiar with the original Transformers, if he's like comically, you know, villainous or...
Dude, I know very little of old Transformers, but like I feel like a lot of iterations of Megatron, he is just mustache swirly bad guy.
Yeah.
Like, he just wants to be Optimus Prime and rule Cybertron. Like, that is just his thing. But this Megatron is basically like, I have to rule Cybertron to save it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm trying to save it in the absolute worst way possible.
Starscream seems pretty much the same, from what I know of him.
Starscream will forever be the sniveling underling who's always trying to what's the word I want to...
He's trying to steal his boss's job.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, he's always trying. I mean, there's a part in fucking Earthrise where he thinks Megatron is dead, and he like immediately assumes control.
Yeah,
like Megatron hasn't been assumed dead for less than 30 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, but that's like straight. Like I said, I've seen like a handful of things from G1, but like I know that that's straight out of that. Like I know that there's like I've seen a scene where it's like, you know, Megatron is gone. I am now the leader of the Decepticons. Like immediately just finding that out. Like it's really funny.
That is every iteration of Starscream, and that he never should change.
Yeah, so it seems that they're still pretty true to his character.
Yeah.
Jeremy Snow here, owner and editor-in-chief of The Geekly Grind. I'm interrupting your awesome, regularly scheduled programming to ensure that you know about our Geekly Grind podcast network, of which this show is a treasured member of. If you haven't had a chance to check out our site, you can do so at www.thegeeklygrind.com, and while you're there, check out the other members of our steadily growing podcast family, including the anime-centric Blake and Spencer Get Jumped, discovering new heroes and comic book keepers with Chris and Lance, exploring the vast universe of geekdom with Geeksploration, or of course appreciating animation's finer details with the Ink and Paint Club. Escape your weekly grind at The Geekly Grind.
The stuff with Bumblebee is definitely pretty interesting, given that he's not an Autobot or a Decepticon. He's just sort of like he's not a junk dealer, right? That was somebody else. He just was like an informant or something.
I think he was just junk. As he was a junk guy.
Or was he? Okay, I couldn't remember.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that whole sort of relationship where like he becomes more in with like the Autobots as time goes on and becomes an Autobot himself. That was an interesting sort of through line plot to follow. Especially once you guys start getting the stuff where like, yeah, where you say that he's kind of like made privy to knowledge that nobody else knows, like, and he like de facto is kind of like the second in command basically at that point, like, or not like, well, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I thought it was very funny that they kept on referring to Bumblebee as the ugly one. Because it's like, they're all, I don't know, man.
They're all robots.
Yeah. I mean,
what is a Transformer standard of beauty, really?
Yeah, okay, that's what I was trying to get at. Like, I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know what the standard of beauty for like a robot is. Is it like more moving parts, or
I don't
know.
Is
it your paint job, or
I
don't know. But it was very funny that they kept on calling him the ugly one.
Yeah.
Why didn't Bumblebee talk through his radio though?
Because that was an invention by Michael Bay.
I know. I was always wondering. I never got around to seeing it, but I know that Travis Knight did a spinoff about Bumblebee. Travis Knight being the dude that heads Laika, and I was very interested in checking that one out because of that fact. I never got around to watching it, but I heard that it was the best of those live action movies, and I wasn't surprised to hear that.
Yeah, I haven't seen Bumblebee, but I have heard that it's better than most of the Michael Bay movies.
I do believe he does still talk through his radio in that, though.
He does. I would never understand that, and it was annoying because in Prime they brought that over because it was like going on at the same time the Bay movies were going on.
Yeah.
So he had that same quirk, but yeah, I'm glad that has been expunged from his personality.
Prime was the one on the hub?
Yes.
That was like the first CG one they did, wasn't it? Besides Beast Wars?
Technically no, because so there's 3 seasons in the Cybertron trilogy. There's Transformers Armada, Energon, and Cybertron, and they're both, all 3 of them are like 2D animes. But starting in Energon, they actually started just making all the robots in CG, and all the human characters were still hand animated.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, but Prime was the first all CG version since Beast Wars.
Okay.
Yes, technically yes.
Okay, that's more I was getting at. Well, anyway, the point that I was going to ask was, so they kept that radio thing for Bumblebee in that show?
Mm-hmm.
But, so did they it was just like a bunch of in-house because in the movies, I know that they used like actual music and scrambled it to make it so he was talking. Like, did they just make random music within the show or like talk radio or something for him?
If I remember it right, he just like makes weird beeping noises.
Oh, okay.
It's been a while since I watched Prime, so I don't really remember, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was.
Sure.
He just makes weird noises.
I do think that that's an interesting character quirk, but to apply it to somebody that didn't previously have that is definitely an interesting move. You think if they would have made just an entirely new Transformers that did that, you know who would have fit more is Soundwave. He's a goddamn boombox.
Yeah.
And he was in those movies, wasn't he?
If he was, he doesn't look like a boombox.
I distinctly remember.
I'm gonna be real honest. If it isn't Bumblebee or Optimus Prime, I kind of lose track on who's in the Transformers movies from movie to movie.
I distinctly remember. I think it was in the second one. There's a robot that does turn into a boombox. Maybe it wasn't Soundwave, but it was definitely okay. Anyway,
I do remember. Yeah. Michael Bay's Transformer movies are weird. I do think it's weird that there is a Soundwave, and I missaid earlier, the other one is Shockwave, the one that was basically suggesting that Megatron basically performs a cleanse.
Yeah.
Of his own people.
Yeah. I thought that was interesting too, that they would have two characters that their names are so close together.
Yeah, and Shockwave's weird because he doesn't actually have a face. He has a light bulb for a face.
Yeah.
Also, he has a laser gun for an arm.
I liked his design because it was so different from everyone else's. Because everyone else is very... Well, I guess he's still technically very humanoid, but he's the only one that doesn't have, like, eyes, nose, and a mouth, and, like,
Yeah.
And,
his voice reminds me of Sark from Tron.
From the original Tron?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Like the main red bad guy.
Wasn't that...
I don't know.
Wait, no, wasn't that... Oh, well, okay, this is gonna revoke some sort of nerd card, but wasn't the main villain in Tron called... Wasn't it Moses?
It was called the Master Control Program. Moses is in South Park, which they modeled him on.
Oh.
That was the joke they made in South Park.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I don't watch I don't watch a ton of South Park, so I totally forgot that they ever even did it.
Yeah, there's an episode where they go to Jew camp.
Oh,
and they awaken Moses, and he looks like the MCP from Tron.
Okay. Well,
holy shit.
Hey, I was semi-correct about something. I don't know what.
You were there. You know what you meant.
Yeah.
I know what you meant.
So I definitely did reference a reference, but I had no idea that it was a reference. There's some sort of meta thing here. I don't know what, but whatever it is stupid.
Yeah.
Hey, speaking of voices, though, so you're the one that's seen a lot more Transformers stuff than I have. As far as like the performances go for these characters, how do you think they did?
So there has been apparently a big controversy with this show because this is the first one in a while that did not have Peter Cullen as Optimus Prime and Frank Welker as Megatron. I was not bothered by this at all. I think the guy who does Optimus, his name is Jake Fauci. I don't know who he is. I am fine with his Optimus voice as long as he's not trying to yell.
Yeah, when he starts yelling, he kind of goes like it's like a very pro wrestler, like cutting a promo type thing. Which
it sounds like he sounds too hard, like he's trying to yell.
I do kind of dig it, but I can see why people wouldn't like it.
Yeah, but the guy who plays Megatron, Jason Marnoka, however I pronounce that, I think he's perfectly fine as Megatron. I think he kind of like serves that character well and like really sells, what he's trying to accomplish. So I mean, I don't have any problem with that. And other than that, I don't have any ties to any other Transformers voice actors. Like I feel like Starscream sounds like a snivelly asshole still. So I mean, that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, just going off of the performances that I've heard from like G1 or any of the other Transformers stuff. Like I thought the performances were pretty good. I mean, it's I don't know. I feel like just the show in general, because I find it. There's a reason why I haven't checked out a lot of Transformers stuff. Is because I don't know why it is. I just can't get that invested in it, and like I don't know why that is. But I think it just has to do with like I don't know, maybe just that era of cartoon and just seeing it like rebooted ad nauseum. It's kind of the same reason why like I would have never checked out like Thundercats or He-Man or G.I. Joe or any of that stuff. Like the only thing recently that has piqued my interest is that the new He-Man show they're doing for Netflix, the one that Kevin Smith's doing, which I haven't checked out yet. But like I was at least interested in the fact that Kevin Smith was working on that one, and because the designs look pretty cool. But yeah, just as far as Transformers go, like I don't know, it's nothing I've ever quite vibed with. I think the reason why I watched Beast Wars as a kid was just because like it was a very interesting, all CG shows were like a new thing like around that time.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, like what Donkey Kong Country and Reboot were the two big predominant ones.
Those were like the only three like all CG shows that were on around that time. So you definitely watched that stuff as a kid because it like blew your mind, even though if you weren't like paying attention to the plot or anything else.
As
far as
I'm not like I said, I'm not a huge Transformers fan, but like I can definitely see why some people cannot like get behind the story or the world from this, because like when you look at it from the outside, Transformers is fucking stupid. Like it's a bunch of robots who transform into cars.
So
and you have to like take seriously their weird war melodrama.
Yeah, so that was another thing I wanted to bring up here too, was I feel like this was something that the Bay movies, like they elaborated on this, and like the way that he at least elaborated it, like it made sense to me. Of course, I'm not the Transformers fan here, so fucking it doesn't matter what I say. But I thought that it was the fact that they transform into cars and that sort of thing here, even though cars and that sort of thing don't exist. Like it makes sense within the original show because it's like, oh, they're on Earth. There are cars and vehicles and like airplanes and stuff there. And so that's why they're robots in disguise. Like that's because they're disguising themselves as fucking vehicles on Earth. So it's like when they're able to do all this shit like on Cybertron, it's like for what purpose and why do they look like like cars and planes and stuff that exist on Earth?
Yeah, I felt like it's never made sense for them to why they are Transformers on their own planet, because like, and my main argument is not that the fact like what's the purpose of that, is like why don't they use it more? Because I feel like they're fast, like they're always running.
Yeah.
Always running to do something. And like if you transform into a car, you're like at least 5 times faster on wheels than you are on foot. So it's like, I don't know why they don't transform into cars more often if they have the ability.
And here's my other big issue, too. Didn't Megatron used to be able to turn into a gun?
He sure did.
Yeah, but he never...
A size-changing gun, if that.
Yeah, because other Decepticons could wield him, right?
Yeah, because he would always, like old G1 Megatron would turn into a gun, where he starts at the same size as Starscream, but would somehow shrink down to fit into his hand.
Yeah.
But they've over time basically just made him into a tank.
Which it makes sense, but I would have loved to have seen in this super serious Transformers show, just him turn into a gun, like...
When most of them have guns.
Yeah, that was the other thing too. Like, no, because those guns shoot like lasers and shit. Like, this is a gun that shoots bullets. Like, because it's like a Remington or something it turns into, right? Like,
I don't know. I know it's got like a scope on it.
Yeah,
it's like a handgun with a scope on it.
Like the fact that there's a Transformer that turned into a gun, and not only that, but he's like your actual big bad villain.
Yep.
And then on his team, he has a Transformer that turns into a boombox. And that Transformer can fit a smaller Transformer that turns into a cassette tape.
Not that. He's got several of them in there. He's got at least two more robots in his chest.
I know there's one named Rumble. That's the only one I remember.
I think Rumble is the cat and Laserbeak is the bird.
God.
Transformers is fucking weird.
Transformers is a
This is what happens when you base a TV show in the 80s off of toys.
Yeah. Oh god. It's bizarre.
Yeah, but like I like this version of it because it's not taking itself it's taking itself seriously and really like selling it. Like I feel like there's no humor to the situation here. I mean, I feel like there are like a few jokes here and there, but like this is played pretty much straight. So it's like, even though it's like I'm watching fucking robots on another planet have a war over dwindling resources, like I can kind of take it seriously because the characters and the situations are being taken seriously.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, just because I found it hard to get invested, I can at least appreciate like what they were going for here, and I can observe that this is something that Transformers fans would want, especially given what you've told me. Like the other Transformers shows that have come before this are still a bit, lean too much on like the human stuff, or still a bit comedic in nature. Like I would say that, yeah, there's definitely a market for this sort of thing without going like way into the direction that like Michael Bay did or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can appreciate that they tried to do like a take on this mythos like this. And just because I wasn't too into it, like I can appreciate that it's very competently done.
Oh yeah,
it's very competently done. Like as far as like the animation goes, and the translation of the G1 and the Beast Wars designs to this style of CGI, and like the voice actors and everything else. Like it I would say that if you're a Transformers fan, like you're probably already watched it. But yeah,
yeah, and honestly, I feel like this show is more, I'd say, almost like a celebration of the Transformers franchise, because like from the G1, I feel like you've got all of the staples on both sides. You got like Optimus, Bumblebee, RC, Alita. Megatron, Starscream, Shock, and Soundwave are there. And like I said, that this show honestly like encompasses multiple different timelines or time periods for the Transformers franchise, because like it starts off in G1, and then there's a part in the second season where Galvatron, which first debuted in the 80s Transformers movie, the one where where Optimus Prime died and made 1,000 children cry.
Yeah.
He shows up like from the future to like tell Megatron like, here's all the information for every battle you will ever face in your life, so you'll always be prepared. So he shows up for a hot second from like a alternate future. And then like we said, in the last season, you see all the G1 characters teaming up with all the Beast Wars characters, which we haven't seen in almost 30 years. So it's really weird seeing like these very old designs play against these really very painfully 90s designs, if I'm being honest. But making that work through character interaction.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, like I said, I mean, I'm sure there's tons of people out there that always wanted to see a big crossover like this with the like G1 and Beast Wars and stuff. So, hey, it's cool that the fans finally got something in that way.
Yeah. So, like I said, like I feel like this is really just a love letter to all the Transformers fans out there. So I'm sure there's plenty of people out there who got way more out of the show than either you or I.
Oh yeah, absolutely
did. I from what I've been able to see, this show's been pretty well received. Despite some nitpicks, but I think the animation is really well done. It's I mean, CG Transformers. I mean, most of them are very blocky, so I don't think they're really that hard to animate. But no, I think the animation is really well done. I like the atmosphere, especially when they're on Cybertron. Like I like the desolate, falling apart cityscapes that they build here. I like a lot of the character interactions, even though like I don't feel like we got to know a lot of the side characters very well. Like Optimus and Megatron and like I feel like the Decepticons get a lot more characters with personality development, but there's plenty of characters to get attached to, and like characters will flip sides or be added to the team. I like that, in the second season, Alita is left on Cybertron and starts basically recruiting Decepticons onto their side because Megatron's being a dickbag.
Yeah, and I mean, it works out. I mean, so that was a fun thing. That was a cool thing to see too. Like, because typically, if something like that were to happen in the original show, like by the end of that episode, those Decepticons would have betrayed him. Like, so to see it played very straight, and it's like oh no, she saved them, so like they saved them, like type of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, you get to see all these different kind of factions. Like, we're used to just seeing like you're either Autobot or Decepticon, but we see a mercenary faction of Transformer. There's people who have not chosen a side. I like that you get to see the Quintessons, these weird multi-faced robot monsters that basically apparently enslaved the Transformers years ago until they basically won their own freedom in a war.
Yeah, that was an interesting create like a character too. Like that whole scene where like kind of like soldering off the other faces, like until it's just like the one left.
Yeah, because it's like this. Yeah, because like this Quintesson basically has like 5 different faces with all different personalities, and like to basically do anything, they have to like come to an agreement on something. So at one point, one of the most aggressive faces basically just solders off its own faces just to have a unanimous consent. But then you get to see fucking Maximals and the Predacons back again. So you kind of get a little bit of everything with this show, and I mean, if you're a Transformers fan, I imagine you've watched it already, and if you're maybe a casual or like an outside fan of Transformers and you haven't watched this, I definitely think it's of good enough quality that I think it's worth checking out. I mean, it's only 18 episodes, 20 minutes each, so you can kill it in an afternoon, honestly. Just watch it in order, unlike Matt. Yes.
Watch Siege, Earthrise, then Kingdom.
There you go.
For future reference.
There you go. But yeah, I really enjoyed watching this, over the last year. I think it's been a really cool project to see Transformers like really kind of stray away from what they normally do, which is just like Transformers on Earth, team up with a bunch of Earth children. Hilarity, action ensues. So I like we kind of got to see some background on this kind of mythos and really what the ramifications of all that are. So, Matt, ultimately, did you enjoy this, even though you're not a fan?
I would say that I definitely watched it.
No, that's all I can ask from you.
No, it was decent. I probably wouldn't go back and rewatch it myself, but I can at least, like I already mentioned, I think it's very competently done, and this is definitely going to be for an audience that I'm not a part of. So sure. I can't attest to it. I can attest to parts of its quality, and I can definitely recommend it to any Transformers fan out there.
Sure.
Now, Hasbro, give everyone the crossover between G4 and G1 My Little Ponies that everyone's asking for.
I'll do you one better. There's a crossover between G1 and whatever Friendship is Magic is.
That's G4. Yeah, that's right. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, if you want to see Optimus Prime and Twilight Sparkle meet up, there's a comic book about that. I've never read it, but I saw the cover and it looks fucking weird.
I've seen images from it. It's pretty great.
Oh, I love Hasbro sometimes and the weird shit they do.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, that is our review of the War for Cybertron Trilogy. Let us know on our various socials what you thought about this. Do you think it's a good adaptation of Transformers? And, would you want to see more of this kind of direction in the future? Because I think they could do more with this kind of stuff. But I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
Yep, so that'll do it for us. Everybody out there, stay safe, and we will catch you again next time.
See ya.
Thanks for listening. You can find all the links to our social media pages in the episode description. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter and join our Discord. You can listen to us wherever you get your podcasts. The Ink and Paint Club is happy to be part of the Geekly Grind Podcast Network. We'll see you next time.